Quarantine pounds don't count.
Exactly.
Quarantine pounds don't count.
Exactly.
Exactly.
The greatest thing about quarantine, everything you eat, 0 calories. They don't count.
Yeah.
Well, hello everybody. This is PodCAPS, where mental health matters. Here today with me, I have 4 of the CAPS ambassadors. You guys, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Christina. I'm a CAPS ambassador. I'm like a junior-ish, I guess is what to say.
All right, and then I'll let Jed go next.
Hey everybody, my name is Jed. You might have possibly known me from the last episode. I am a recently graduated with my major in psychology and my minor in neuroscience. And yeah.
And then we also have Reza with us.
Hello everyone, this is Reza, the intro voice of the first episode. And also a fourth year computer science PhD student. I'm happy to be here.
And Sarah.
I'm Sarah. I am a junior studying public health, and I'm also minoring in neuroscience.
Yeah, so we're having to do this in a little bit of a weird format, given the current set of circumstances in the world with the current coronavirus pandemic. I'm sure you all are aware of it, unless you're just a little hermit living in a rock in your house, and you just never come outside. In that case, you are probably very unbothered by what's going on. But yeah, so we're having to stay inside. UTA has been, for the most part, closed. All classes have been moved online for the remainder of the semester, and things are just a little weird right now. So we're trying to still get this episode out. We're all talking from our own house, and I'm trying to get us to figure out some way to take turns so we're not all talking over each other, since we don't really have the cues of seeing each other in person while we record. But if whoever wants to volunteer, I guess we'll just do a check-in. Like, how is everybody doing right now?
So I'm doing good currently. So I'm in the house now with my older brother and both my parents. I didn't stay at the apartment by campus. It's been an interesting adjustment for sure, because everyone has to learn how to work from home. And it's not that like we can't like all work together. It's just this is the first time in like literally ages that we've all been home and we've all had to be productive on our own terms in like separate corners of the house, and it feels like I'm on a permanent timeout. So that's been fun.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a shared experience right now, with people feeling very cooped up. People are having to go home to their families, which maybe they haven't been living with for quite a while. It's a weird time. Jed, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I went to spring break in Colorado right before everything went on lockdown. And so coming back, I went to work for 2 days, and then I was told that one of my friend's friends was showing symptoms of the virus, and so I told my boss, and I got quarantined from work for 2 weeks. So I'm kind of riding this out right now, but I've been good. Just kind of, you know, trying to stay active while trying to stay mentally active and keep up with schoolwork while at the same time keep up with myself physically, because I know that I have no problem just kind of sitting in the same spot and letting myself go for a bit. But aside from that, I'm doing all right, and just kind of making sure that I have enough to do to keep me busy throughout the day. So
Yeah, so Jed and I both, outside of doing our CAP stuff, we both work for MHMR of Tarrant County. Jed normally works in a group home, so like a disability services group home. How many guys do you have at your group home, Jed, usually?
usually 5.
Usually 5?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I also work in disability services, but I work for like a therapeutic center, but because it's like scheduled stay, it's basically been completely shut down for right now. So I've been moved to support some group homes. So I've been doing like a pretty different job than what I'm used to. It's the same like demographic of people that I'm helping, but instead of them coming to visit, like our little guest house and get a therapeutic experience, I'm a visitor in their house. Like this is where they live. And they are all very frustrated that they can't go outside. Some of them can understand why better than others. But they are used to having like at least the weekends where they can go out and do things and like go out to eat and things like that, which they aren't really getting that right now. So my job right now is just kind of keeping them chill with everything going on. I've been playing a little bit of delivery driver because they still get their weekly allowances, and this past weekend like the guys wanted Wendy's. So I'm just
I love it.
yeah, I'm just doing stuff like that for them. So it's weird. A lot of people's jobs have shifted. They're either not able to work right now, whether it's because they've been exposed to the virus or just because they're not an essential business, or
They're getting laid off.
They're getting laid off, furloughed,
Yeah.
working from home, or if you're like me, your job position has kind of changed for the foreseeable future. So it's a weird time. Change can be good, but it can also be really stressful. So we'll move on to Reza. Reza, how are you doing?
Hi, my well-being is kind of a day-to-day update, the changes. So I had a roommate before spring break started. He went to Austin to visit his family, and he never came back for obvious reasons. Until last week, he came packed up and moved out. So it's been a different learning curve for me to be able to learn how to be so isolated and alone. But I go walk to the lab, which is 20 minutes away, like a 20 minutes walking distance. That keeps me going. It's gone better over time, I have to say that.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, it's definitely, I feel that. It's been fluctuating for me too, for sure. But yeah, I'm glad you're taking it day by day and, coping the best you can. Sarah, how are you doing?
Good. Kind of like what Christina was saying. When I went to Miami for spring break, like right before everything got super bad, and I came home because of the lockdown and everything, and I don't have the best relationship with my dad, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate with one or both parents or their caregivers, but I just felt like being at home was not good for me because we were just bickering back and forth, and it was super draining on me, and I didn't feel like being at home this for like as long as I was not going out at all was good for my sanity. So I am fortunate enough to have another place to stay at. So now I'm doing better. Just yeah, that's how I don't know what else to say.
Yeah,
It's hard, I think.
yeah,
Like going back from like living like, because you have like your college life and then you have your life at home.
right.
Like, because of how different
Yeah.
the environments are, it's so hard. And like
Mm,
after being in school for a couple years, like I don't know how I would be handling this right now if I was a freshman, just because like I've already had like my preconceived notion of school and like what it looks like versus going home. But like
right.
being a freshman right now, at least in education, like that has to be insane.
Mm,
For sure. I've been thinking about that pretty frequently lately. Like, I feel a lot for people who are freshmen and, like, this is one of their first semesters and things are
right.
going so wild. I also feel for people who are supposed to graduate this semester and now that's getting put off. And I've also thought quite a bit about, people who are maybe in a weird position where like a lot of dorms, they've been like forcibly moved out. And for people who don't have good relationships with their family and at home, it's worrying, like because not everybody has like another place they can live. Not everybody has good relationship with their family. You know, it's a lot. I kind of had to, you know, pre-pandemic, I had the experience. I lived by myself for 2 years on campus, and then just to save up on money, I ended up moving back home and decided to commute. And honestly, like, that was a really difficult transition, just in and of itself. Like, you know, I'm thankful that my parents have been so good and supportive to me, but I mean, like, moving home after being independent for 2 years is like a really weird feeling, and I feel like a lot of people are definitely going through that right now. Anyways, we were shortly ago just joined by another CAPS ambassador named Daniel. Daniel, if you want to introduce yourself and tell us how you're doing right now.
Hey, sorry I'm a little late. My name's Daniel Luna. I'm a freshman in my second semester.
Oh boy,
So
so yeah, you're really getting that effect.
yeah, my freshman year has been something, huh?
Yeah.
Just have been doing. Like you were saying, this year is probably the first year that I got to move away from home. I lived at home my whole life, and so going into college, this is probably like this is actually a really good experience. Going up from home. And not that I like I have a bad relationship with like my family or anything. Just that like sometimes it's just so nice going from home, especially since growing up I never had my own individual room. So like living in the dorms was a nice experience. Getting away from that. I think having somewhere I could just be like myself and like get away from that. It was nice. And so coming back to this, it hasn't been bad. Hasn't been bad. It's just that like I've lost a little bit of privacy. And the main thing that happened was I lost a little bit of freedom, where now I kind of have to like check in with my parents and stuff. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but you know,
It's
Yeah,
definitely different.
yeah,
it is.
yeah.
It's a different experience going from, you know, I live in this space completely by myself. I don't really have to tell anybody where I'm going or when I'll be back, you know, even if it's just out of
Mhm.
courtesy, and not so much like a control thing, but just like, you know, it's different having to stop and pause and like be like, okay, you know, like, bye, I'm going to work, I'll be back at this time, or things like that. It's strange for sure.
Yeah.
Um, I think I've talked a little bit about how I've been doing as you guys have been bringing up your own concerns. But I guess I'll delve a little bit in and then I'll ask the next question. I've been up and down, kind of like Reza. It's like a day-to-day thing for me. This past weekend, I got hit really hard with like the emotional gravity of everything has changed, and this is my life for the next few weeks at least, the next month. And it's very different from what I'm used to. I tend to fill my life with activities that I'm very present in to you know, engage in, and those things give my life a lot of meaning and a motivation, I think. And having those formats change is it's a weird experience. It's kind of put me on an emotional roller coaster, I feel like, because some days I'm like, you know, this is great. I can do my stuff whenever I feel like. I just get to sit at home. I have more time for things that I enjoy. And then other days I'm like, man, I miss my friends. I miss seeing people. This sucks.
Yeah.
So it's I'm trying to just be accepting of my feelings and the situation, and just be patient and take it day to day. Um, so I want to ask you guys next, like, how are you all coping? Like, what are things that you guys are doing to take care of yourself in this current climate?
Well, so I kind of something a little like probably a little more crazy. So my biggest thing was like I wasn't really affected by anything until the gyms closed. When the gyms closed, that's when I actually started getting affected because I mean, I don't really go out, I don't really do anything in the first place. Like I would just do school and then I'm kind of into fitness and so that's where those were my interests. That's where I would lie. And other than that, like I'm kind of a homebody anyways. Like I don't really go out like a ton. Um but once the gyms closed, like that was kind of like my band-aid. Like it didn't matter like what kind of day I was having usually. Like it, as long as I was able to get to the gym that day, like mentally, I was good. Like I was checked in and I was good. I was ready. But once they closed, I had to take a very different approach to how I do things because I really like lifting. Um, so I actually started training for a half marathon that I don't know if it's even gonna go still, but I'm gonna act like it is just so I have something to kind of keep my eyes on and like train for or to focus on. And so because of like kind of having it something in the back of my mind where it's like I'm training for it, it's really helped me with like stay clean with eating. It's helped me like stay on a training schedule. Like it's helped me sleep like and help regulate my sleep schedule just because it's okay, like I have this time to this time to work out and then any other time around it's like this is for school, like this is for other stuff. And so I just took like a complete 180 approach to how I was working out. And that's how I'm kind of coping. It's working like some days, and then some days are harder than others, but I feel like everyone's kind of in that boat with just what's going on. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really beneficial that you're like kind of giving yourself the scheduled time frames to like do things that make you feel good still, while also having time scheduled for school. I think that's probably like one of the hardest parts about classes being moved largely online, especially in college where you're very like self-guided.
It is.
Uh,
It is.
yeah, having to learn to, work your own schedule, because you're not obligated to like be anywhere for it now, really. Um,
Exactly. And I'm not someone who like could do online classes in the first place. And like I know that about myself. Like I'm not disciplined to where it's like I have okay, like I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna do school. Like I am not disciplined like that at all. And so like I never really took sitting in a classroom for granted just because I knew that's how I always learn. But like especially now, it's like I never thought I would miss the classroom setting and the person pulling out weird snacks next to me. Like I miss all of it, but day by day.
yeah, for sure. How about you, Daniel?
The way I'm coping is the same thing with as Christina. I just have a set time where I've been working out. Like I tend to it's the only time I actually get to go outside really. I just go outside and I cross the street into a park that I live by and it has this wooden wall that I just, like kick a soccer ball next to and that's how I've been doing it, just going out there kicking a soccer ball. I think after a week that I haven't worked out, I decided to go out there, and I was finally able to convince my parents to let me like go outside, and like as long as I avoided everyone, whenever I came back, I cleaned and like I washed myself, things like that. They were okay with it, and so when I first went out there, I think I was out there for 2.5 hours, three, I believe, and it was just from like being so happy that I was able to like finally go outside and breathe some fresh air, and so after that, I just like set a time to go outside, kick the soccer ball around, run for a bit, maybe do an ab workout once I come back, and that's just been like the most relieving process thing I've ever to do. And especially with schoolwork, once I can't like focus on it, I go on my little run, I'll go play soccer for a bit and I come back and I'm able to like hit the computer again and actually be able to finish some stuff that I've been struggling with trying to finish.
Yeah,
I have a question. I have a
uh,
question.
what is your question?
How many miles is your little run?
Um, I haven't been on long runs recently. I think the longest one I've been would be 5 miles so far.
Oh my god.
Um,
Okay. Just for people who don't know, like this guy is a crazy runner, but his little run is like 5 miles. Just
Yeah,
keep it
that 5 miles would have me dead on the floor. 1 mile is like a big run for me. Uh,
if
so, yeah, and I think that is some good wisdom to share, like with exercising and also going outside. I think it's very easy for people to just stay cooped up in their house, especially since we're not really supposed to be going out so much. But I mean, like most places allow for you to go outside to like take a walk and things like that, or even just go into like your yard or something. Because the most important part about that, I think, is besides exercise being so important for regulating our mood, but vitamin D also plays a really important role in regulating mood and warding off depression and things like that. And you get that from sunlight. you can take supplements as well if you find yourself not really helped by that. But, you know, just laying out in the sun or like being out in the presence of the sun for a little bit every day can go a long way for helping our mood stay good and getting that fresh air. Kind of what I've been doing in like a similar vein is like I've been gardening because I have like a vegetable garden outside, so I'll go outside and work on that. Or even just trying to like go and like lay out in my yard, like even if I just like lay in the grass like a crazy person, it feels like, but you know, just getting that sunlight and feeling some warmth and fresh air is really nice with the current set of circumstances, because it's not like we're, you know, I'm walking from class to class on campus and I get it then, you know.
For sure.
Jed, how are you coping? What is your self-care right now?
All right, so if you follow me on any of my social medias, you'll probably know that I've been playing a ridiculous amount of Animal Crossing. That's still true. For the last week or so, I've been red eye playing this game just to the wee hours of the night and the morning and any time where I'm not needing to sleep. But aside from the wonderful, wholesome world that is Animal Crossing and the town of Noodle, which is what I named my town, I try to go outside whenever I can just to kind of get a breath of fresh air. So because of the fact that, like Christina said, the gyms are closed here in Arlington, I have just been trying to like channel my best Daniel impression and run a mile. And then after that I'll like go to a playground that has some sort of bar that I can use as like a pull-up bar, and I'll just kind of do a workout on a playground wherever I can. Aside from that, I've been eating like a lot. I can't really stop because I just kind of get bored and I'm like, dang, a cookie sounds nice right about now. And then I'll just go and eat a cookie. But aside from all of that, everything that I've been doing, although probably not healthy for me per se, has been keeping me sane. So that's what I've been doing to cope. But I'm not the best example of it right now.
Yeah, I will say in regards to food, because I've seen a lot of people like on social media and stuff posting about how they feel like they're going to gain a bunch of weight during this situation and so on and so forth, and how they're just like eating a bunch. I will say, as long as you're not eating yourself sick, we're in a weird situation right now. You're cooped up at home. Your brain is coping with a lot. Your body's coping with a lot. If you want to eat some extra cookies during this time period, I say do it, personally.
Honestly, I agree. It's just that I feel like I've eaten an obscene amount of cookies, and that's where I think the line should be drawn.
This is fair. I think it's different for everybody. But I mean, like, if anybody, you know, out there is kind of experiencing something similar where they're like, oh, God, I'm eating a lot, you know, like, know your own limits. However, like, don't...
Quarantine pounds don't count.
Exactly.
Quarantine pounds don't count.
Exactly.
Exactly.
The greatest thing about quarantine, everything you eat, 0 calories. They don't count.
Yeah.
Well, honestly,
Exactly.
Like, I feel as if when it comes to like eating, like we've never, at least me and I'm pretty sure most of our generation has never really been in this kind of crazy pandemic before, to where everything is basically shut down aside from essentials, that there's really no guideline to how you should take on this pandemic and your social quarantine and your
Free for all.
self-isolation. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just
Literally a
you
free
just
for all.
yeah, just kind of have to do your thing and you know, just make it out of the house in one piece once we're allowed to go out. But you know, take care of yourself definitely, but don't feel that because you're lost, you're losing all grip, because we all feel lost.
Yeah, I think this is a great time to exercise self-compassion, which part of self-compassion is finding common humanity and like our struggles and failures. And I think it's good to remember, you know, like everybody's struggling right now. Everybody's going through this. It's kind of like we were talking a little bit before. I feel like this is like kind of like a mass trauma that everybody's experiencing. And depending on how much, you know, the coronavirus pandemic impacts you personally, it could be a little T trauma or a big T trauma. But the thing about that is that everybody deals with trauma differently. Everybody has different coping mechanisms. And there's no one right way to like really quote unquote get over it or deal with it. I mean, there are healthier ways than others, but you know, we're all in it right now, so just do the best you can. But yeah, so Reza, how are you doing? What are you doing to cope in self-care right now?
So I was saying that the first week for me was very hard. It was as if I was trying not to acknowledge that this is going to last for an unforeseeable time. So I basically took out all my frustration out in different ways, but then not in a dangerous way, just emotional ways. But the second week, I was like, okay, I got to do something better. So I started to be more scheduled about my life. And one thing that really annoys me a lot is that when I'm around my phone, I keep just getting stuck with my phone, just looking around as if I'm just fishing for something, but there's nothing there. It's just I'm just trying to find something. Like, sometimes I find myself checking my Twitter every 5 minutes. It's just crazy. So I was like, this is the first step. I have like a time during the day that I don't have my phone around me. That was a very good step for me that has turned it around, because when I'm over that period, I'm excited to go back and have my phone back. It's like I have that little aggressive controlling dad inside me who doesn't let me to have my phone for 6 hours, and then after 6 hours he rewards me with my phone. That's really helpful. As you guys said, just trying to keep my heartbeat a bit high for even a few minutes per day. That helps physically and emotionally. And sometimes I read books for a few minutes, sometimes 1 hour. But yeah, so little thing. It's more about schedule, as you guys said. Just I know that as many hours somewhere. So these things has been better, but still there are struggles for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I think keeping that schedule and even limiting your time on social media are also beneficial tips for just about anybody. Sarah, how are you doing?
So I've been trying before the pandemic, I was already not really like a big extrovert, and so I was already like staying in my apartment a lot. So the hardest thing for me, I guess, is just finding like things to do. And so I've been trying to more, so like, doing facials on myself, and trying all these new body scrubs, and I've been trying to do things that I couldn't do before because I was busy from like going to class for. So I've been cooking a lot and catching up on shows that I wasn't able to watch. So I've mostly been able to try to like do things that I haven't been able to do before.
Yeah, I think that's largely been my strategy too, I think. Because
Mhm.
usually I keep pretty busy. So now I have all this time. I'm like, well, I can watch that show I've been wanting to watch. I can cook more, because my schedule, the way it was before, I barely got to cook. And now I'm back to being able to cook pretty frequently, which is really therapeutic for me personally.
Mm.
Like I mentioned, gardening. I finally have time to play more video games, which I try not to spend all of my time doing that. I think the fact that I don't have my hands on a copy of Animal Crossing yet is really helpful for that.
I was about to ask, I was like, are you jumping on Animal Crossing or trying for it?
I want Animal Crossing so bad. I had New Leaf on the 3DS and I loved that game. But I don't have a Nintendo Switch. I had made a vow early on. I was like, I'm not going to buy a Switch unless Nintendo announces a new Animal Crossing. And then they did.
They did.
And, yeah, and so now this past Monday I just got paid and I got a decent paycheck, and I was like, you know what, on this paycheck I'm going to buy myself a Switch, and I want the console one, I don't want the Lite. I was like, I'm going to buy myself a Switch and I'm going to buy myself a copy of Animal Crossing. Tell me why I get paid and I go to look and I find out that there is a shortage of Nintendo Switch consoles. There is a shortage of Switches because everybody stayed inside and everybody bought a Nintendo Switch. Everybody wanted Animal Crossing just like me. They were smart, they got ahead of the curve, and they bought their Switch. And now there are people online scalping them and trying to sell them for like anywhere from $100 to $300 over the retail price. And I'm like, what the hell? You know?
Oh no.
So now I'm just sitting here with money to spend on Nintendo and nowhere to spend it. So I'm waiting for Nintendo to announce a restock of Switches. They said they're working on it, and so I can finally get on the Animal Crossing bandwagon, probably like a month after everybody else, but that's okay. My boyfriend has been kind enough to let me play on his copy. On his Switch, because there's multiplayer, so like he can hand me a controller and like we can both run around his town together. So we've been doing that.
Yeah. I love it.
But yeah, so otherwise I've just been playing.
I'm not gonna pretend like I don't know what that is, what that game is about. But go on.
Oh my gosh, it's like so amazing.
It's Animal Crossing is very much like a relaxing type game. I think it's pretty comparable to games like Minecraft or Stardew Valley if you've played them, but it's very much like you're on an island or you have a town that you're in control of. You can kind of decorate it however you want. You can
you can plant trees.
You can plant trees. You can plant flowers. You like try to collect different fruit trees.
You fishing.
You can fish. You can catch bugs, and you have little animal villagers that move into your town. And there's like over 100 different ones that could potentially come to your town. And you can kind of swap them out. Like if you don't like one, you can convince them to move and like try and steal one from somebody else's village if you go talk to them at their village. But yeah, they're like a bunch of funky little animals with different unique little personalities and like aesthetics. And it's a very relaxing and like wholesome game.
It's
but
addictive.
Yeah, there's your Animal Crossing synopsis. But
it seems like Sims.
And you can upgrade and you like pay your rent and then your house gets bigger. Like it's insane.
Yeah,
I used to be so into it. Like, and then you can get different hairstyles when you do like the personality quiz.
Yeah.
I used to look up the little cheat codes to get like the one hairstyle I wanted.
I did that too. But yeah. Yeah, there's our Animal Crossing diversion for the moment. But I have other games that I had been meaning to play and stuff that I've been getting to. I was doing like a completionist playthrough of Fallout New Vegas that I've gotten back to working on, and my boyfriend also recommended a game series. It's like the Trails series, so it's like a bunch of games by a developer called Falcom, I think, and there's like 7 games total or something. But I'm on the first one, which is Trails of the Sky, and it's like a turn-based like JRPG game. But that's just me being nerdy. Okay. So with all of us having checked in, I just want to take some time to discuss how is the current climate affecting mental health, do you think, on a mass scale? Like what have you seen? Like what are the effects you can foresee it having on other people on a mass scale? Like what are your thoughts on the current situation, on maybe like a more community or even global scale of how people will be affected?
I actually had this conversation with a friend the other day, and it was something kind of along the lines of like anyone who pretty much struggled like mentally before, like this pandemic literally is one of the worst things. I personally feel like that could happen just because like the way it threw off structure for people, and like for some people like having structure in their lives was like pretty much the only thing they can control, and like now that that's gone, it feels like everything's just like it's a free for all, like it's insane. And so I know for some people like this has been so detrimental to like their mental well-being, but because of how detrimental it's been to like their mental, like it's affected every other part of their life. Like it's insane. And I know for some people they were like, I mean, this is kind of nice. It's like a break. I mean, at first for some people were like, oh, it's like a break. It's kind of nice. Like 2 weeks for spring break, count me in. But then as things took a turn for the worst, I think they were like, okay, it's not funny anymore. Like I want to go back. Like So I don't know, that's just some of the things that I've personally seen with it and like conversations I've had with people. I know a lot of people are struggling like now more than ever mentally. And like even some people who didn't necessarily struggle before, I think they're kind of seeing into the world of mental struggles. And to them, it's an eye opening experience because not necessarily that they didn't think that it was real before, but they've never been affected by it. And now all of a sudden they have to change their lifestyle completely. It's one of those things where it just like rocked their world, so to speak.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, I think like big changes, especially unexpected ones, or ways that like change our structure, definitely can disrupt our mental health fairly easily, more easily than most of us would even like to believe, I think.
For sure.
What do you think, Daniel?
Actually, I have not had this conversation with anyone, but I've been thinking about it for a little bit. Um, I think, as like Christina was saying, people who rely on structure and things like that are gonna be affected by a lot. Because I know I'm what's the word I'm looking for? Spontaneous. I'm a pretty spontaneous person. I like to just like go around, or like when a mood hits me, I can just leave. So like structure in my life wasn't really a big deal. And like now that that's thrown off and I have like nothing to do, this is something like that's like hit me. Not as I'm not trying to say like it hit me hard, but it's been a struggle to like get through it every day, especially finding motivation in a day to like do schoolwork and things like that. So I can just like imagine someone who's like been going through this, or like someone who like relies on structure heavily, or needs something like of that sort to like help them throughout the day.
Right, right. What about you, Jed? What are what are your thoughts?
Um, so it's weird because I feel that due to us being stuck inside more often, actually feel that wanting to learn how to cope with mental health and like kind of strategies to learn how to stay sane, or at least not within your own head as much, are a lot more prominent and prevalent now on social media.
For
I'm
sure.
seeing a lot more posts on a lot of people's pages where they're saying like, how to take care of yourself while in a pandemic, or here's how to not go crazy when you're stuck inside the house. All these types of things, to where people are, if anything, like, of course the pandemic is horrible, but the benefit is that people are starting to pay a lot more attention to mental health as a whole, and they're paying more attention to how their family members are doing, or how their friends are doing, and reaching out, because we kind of took things for granted when we would see someone every single day, and now we're able to really reach out and just kind of be on the same page with everybody in terms of our mental, and we're not really worried as much about, like, everything else going on aside from the pandemic and our mental health. And I think that's great because we're really able to really connect with each other on a better mental level compared to where we've been in the past.
Yeah, I think that's a really positive and kind of bright side way to look at it. I think it's kind of the shared experience and being able to pay more attention to those things. What about you, Reza?
Um, so one thing I want to mention is, uh, so now that everyone's isolated more or less, um, naturally there's a sense that you want to reach out to your friends and your loved ones, and you want to be reached out to. So it's very mutual. I'm saying this because not only I feel it in myself, but also I've seen other people like complaining. Like I'm a part of this group me group uh, made by someone spontaneously, and a bunch of UTA students are there. So just sometimes I go there and check the messages, and there was this person that was complaining about the fact that she thought she didn't have any friends, and the people who she counted on were not reaching out to her to see, like, check on her. So she was having a hard time with that, and I could relate to that more or less, because at least in my point of view, I can see, like, you wonder, how much do I matter to other people? So any underlying mental insecurities can be highlighted during this time. So I think it's important to reach out, um, in any way possible, whether it's a text or video message, video call, voice message, voice call. I think that's something to get more verification, not to feel alone. That's something that I think is important.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a very good way to empathize and be thoughtful to your loved ones during this time, is to just check on them and see how they're doing. Because, you know, you don't get the luxury of maybe being able to see them daily like you once did before, or even frequently. It's kind of like that weird position of like, we discussed before, it's like everybody's in like a long distance relationship with everybody now. And it requires like good communication and checking in, to keep that feeling of, you know, value to someone. Sarah, what about you? What are your thoughts?
I feel bad I don't have that much to add because I kind of like I everything that I was gonna say was already said, but
Yeah, you had the disadvantage of going last.
something I noticed, I guess, that no one hasn't like really mentioned that much is that I feel like there's gonna be a rise in people who get diagnosed with mental illnesses because kind of like what Jed and Christina were saying, now people are stuck at home, so it's like, you know, people are out of work, and so I feel like a lot of these people who are really struggling through this, are not just going to suffer from stress, but probably things like anxiety, and maybe they might share symptoms of or exhibit symptoms of depression. And so even though it's, you know, like Jed said, it's a time where, you know, people might be more sensitive and more or more knowledgeable about mental illnesses, I feel like a lot of people are probably going to get diagnosed with it or at least have symptoms of it than before.
Yeah, and I think with the current situation and a lot of people being laid off even temporarily or like furloughed from their jobs, or there are even some companies that are trying to encourage early retirement. I think with the financial stress that will be caused by this pandemic and the way it's going to affect the economy as well is going to leave a lot of people in a lot of distress.
For sure.
And yeah, I mean, like applications for, you know, unemployment benefits has hit like a dramatic historical high. And yeah, it's kind of a question of like, are we gonna have enough resources, as a nation even, or like as a world, to support people, the mass majority of people who are gonna be affected by this, both, you know, physically, emotionally, and financially as well, and what are the impacts that all of these things are gonna have on their mental health. I think that's a good perspective to keep, and to just, you know, I don't know. There's not really any good advice for that kind of situation. It's just, kind of a matter of do the best you can and coping with what's going on and taking it one day at a time. So, before we wrap up, does anybody have any parting thoughts that they'd like to share?
Y'all are not alone. And I can't stress that enough. And even with how Reza was saying, it's important to, extend it, like lend a hand, like reach out to others. And it's important for others to reach out to you. But just know, like, a time, especially like now, if you're someone who is typically a bit more prideful and you refuse to reach out first, just because it makes you nervous, you feel like you're bothering someone, like, you're absolutely not. Like, your feelings of not exactly being as connected as per usual, like, it's valid. And just know that if you choose to reach out to someone, chances are they're going to love hearing from you because they're going to want to catch up with you, just given our circumstances. So keep that in the back of your head next time you get a little lonely.
Yeah, I think that is a lovely thought to leave off on. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to add?
I feel that, one of the biggest things or one of the biggest problems that everybody will have coming up soon, especially even those who are the homebodies, is getting stir crazy. one of the biggest things to do to, or I feel that to kind of prevent that is just, if you can and if circumstances allow, step outside for 5 to 10 minutes and just kind of breathe and be aware of the world around you again, because being stuck in the house or being stuck wherever you are, it has a really good tendency to, kind of forget what the outside like even feels like. You can see it through a window, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're feeling it. So, take the time to really take a step out and breathe and enjoy everything going on around you, because, I definitely for sure took being outside for granted, and the liberty and the freedom of being outside for granted. So, although I can still step outside and enjoy the fresh air, I just a reminder to for all the listeners to do that as well.
Right. Anybody else?
I wanted to mention something you, Aria, mentioned before, and I've seen other people mention it. If you're one of those people who spends a lot of time in their bedroom for their work or study, you might have seen this conflict that you don't know if you're really working or you want to sleep. You want to take a nap. You don't really feel like you're putting the work, because this is like there's this invisible gravity from your bed trying to get you. So I've seen tricks. People who wear clothes as if they're going out, so they suit up, or people go sit somewhere else in the house just to make sure they have a different space for the work. Basically, I'm trying to discourage everyone from having this space for their rest and for their work, based on what I've heard from other people and based on my own experience.
Yeah, there is a lot of science behind, there can be problems when you intermingle the space in which you rest with the space in which you work. So that is definitely a good recommendation. Try and find a space in your house that you don't usually relax in, and maybe try and get some schoolwork done there. But with that, does anybody have anything else they want to add?
Stay home, please.
Yeah, please stay home. Please stay home, flatten the curve, wash your hands. If you do have to go out, please be safe, and practice good health hygiene. That is definitely a good one.
6 feet.
Yeah, 6 feet distance. Protect yourself and protect others who may be at a higher risk than you are. This is bigger than all of us. Than all of us. Pardon me.
If
We
real
gotta work
quick,
together.
if you don't know how long 6 feet is, look up a picture of a capybara, picture it in your mind, and 2 capybaras is 6 feet long on an average. So
there you go. There's a
This
very...
is how, in case y'all were curious, this is how Jed measures and goes about his everyday life.
Yeah.
Yep.
He measures in capybaras.
It's a very standard unit of measurement. What can we say?
it takes me 12 capybaras to go from my room to downstairs to the kitchen. So.
All right. Well, this has been PodCAPS, and I will leave you with this one reminder. In the midst of the crazy times we're living in, your mental health definitely matters. As for the future of PodCAPS, we're going to try and record as feasibly as we can. Everything's changing, so we don't know how things will go. We're already kind of very off schedule, given the circumstances that we're in. But we're going to do our best to, get feedback from you guys and still try and put out some content for you to enjoy during this time. At the moment, CAPS services have changed. If you haven't seen that or heard it, please go to uta.edu/CAPS and check out the services that we are offering, given that the university is closed and things are pretty different now. We also really want to promote things like the Thrive at UT app. That is a psychoeducational app with a lot of different modules on how to maintain your mental health in different ways, including things like mindfulness, community, your mindset, mood, and other modules as well. And we also have Therapy Assisted Online, which is free for all UTA students. You just need your UTA email or net ID to log into it and access it. And it's kind of like a self-help, self-guided therapy app. So please take advantage of those resources if you need it. And as always, we do have our Mavs Talk crisis line as well, and that is 817-272-TALK. And for talk, it is also 8255. So 817-272-8255. And then obviously, if you are still on campus and you are in an emergency, call 911 or the UTA police number, which is 817-272-3003. We hope you're all doing well, and stay inside and stay safe and protect your physical and mental health the best you can.
Don't run into fire hydrants.
Yeah, don't do that either.
I mean, you could do it if you want, but it just apparently it hurts. I don't know.
I have a bruise the size of like I don't even know how big this bruise is. It's smaller than a capybara, so I can't even measure.
It was therefore immeasurable.
All right.
It's getting there.
With that, we wish you a good quarantine, and we'll be around. This has been PodCAPS, where mental health matters.